Well, hello, folks. How are you doing today? I'm fine. It's been raining a lot. I think we have a week more of rain to go, and maybe we'll get some sunny days. Looking forward to that. I read a piece by Patrick Lawrence. I highly recommend you read him at Sheer Post if you're interested. And he's great because I love his references, his hyperlinks. He always, references brilliant people and other works and books and so on. And if you click on those hyperlinks and read them, it's highly enlightening, in my opinion. Anyway, it really fleshes out our predicament and makes things clear. Most of us don't want to think about one way of life coming to an end and a new way of life beginning, but that's what we're confronting now. And we have been for decades, we just didn't know it. And so this is the first time in our lifetimes, people my age and younger, who are starting to notice that things are shifting. One thing Patrick said in his article at the end was that BRICS and other axes of power are not ready yet to bring in something new. We're still really, really stuck in the clutches of business as usual. And, for some people, that's great. But for the majority of people and life on Earth, it's not a good thing. So what I want to do is take you through some things. I'm making a shift to Cospelon.eu instead of Globe Hackers. And what I want to do is focus on what's next. So again, I have this playlist here. It's called What If, Imagine That. So what I want to do is try to imagine what's next. So if you and yours and your young people have any ideas about what comes next, we could start there and then we could figure out perhaps how we're going to get there. Because the why we're in this predicament is very clear at the moment. I think there are a lot of great journalists, commentators, news outlets, alternative media outlets, bloggers, and so on that are confronting why we're in this predicament and what the predicament exactly is. They're out there and they're on my website in links we love at cospelon.eu, and you can peruse those and you'll understand what's going on. Yeah, I really believe that. Unfortunately, it's all these websites are in English. If anyone anywhere has similar offerings in other languages, please contact me through my contact form at cospelon.eu and let me know so I can put them in. I'm planning to organize that page better into sections that are more clearly defined and linked from above so people can navigate them better. But that's going to take some time. I got a lot on my plate, believe it or not. So, yeah, what's next? And how, why, and so on. We very, very difficult questions. In particular, how? How are we going to get there? It's almost impossible to come up with that part of the equation if we, first of all, haven't hit a critical mass of the global population that's conscious of the what and why. And it's complex, as I always say. It's systemic and structural, which means that we have to look at everything, in particular politics, because politics really does lead the way. We're not living in a benevolent anarchy yet, and probably never will be unless our numbers on this planet decrease radically, substantially. And that would be tragic. Unfortunately, I think it's bound to happen sooner or later. But anyway, you can disagree with that. Maybe we'll all be machines and it'll be better off or living in the metaverse and some server on the dark side of the moon. Anyway, it's interesting just to know how short a time our species has been around, and also how completely minuscule a time we've been living in globally coded neoliberal fossil capitalism. It's been a very short period of time. You can talk about empires going way back to ancient times. You can talk about colonialism going back hundreds of years. But the thing we're in now is like a tiny fraction of our history as a species. So what comes next will come. As I say, circumstances will dictate that to a large degree, because I don't think we've hit a critical mass where we can have some consilience and coordinate a response and, come up with something that we can all agree on and move forward with, and do it across cultures, across nation states. It's a big project. And of course, I keep saying, why should I care? If you don't care, that's fine. I've got some other offerings coming in the near future that I'll make you aware of. But for now, when I make a video like this, I want to focus on these questions of what comes next, So use your imagination. I don't know how we're going to get there, but all these ideas are fantastic. And there are a lot of ideas out there, and I want to make people aware of them. But for now, I'll just take you through what I've collected recently in the what and why kind of realm. And then I'm really going to focus on ferreting out people with great ideas about what might come next. I don't want to get too heavy because some of it's very philosophical, and political philosophy can be uncomfortable for some people to digest. We live in a winner culture, so winning is everything, and we think we're constantly winning, and we have to believe we're constantly winning, or we get depressed and have to get prescriptions to pharmaceuticals to get through the day, or recreate with other forms of mind-altering substances, mood-altering substances, which is sad. But we don't have to face that. We can use our imagination if we want to. And come up with things. And it's interesting, if you meditate on it a bit, there may be things percolating in your mind and in your intuition and imagination right now that could be great ideas and could have impact, even if you don't understand how it all fits together. And since the beginning of, the modern age, more or less, the age of discovery and so on, we have been a networked species. So no one person has all the answers. What we do is we communicate, collaborate across space and time and face-to-face, and we come up with things, and then we work on them empirically, and we use evidence-based science, and we use philosophy and reason and rationale to get there. I watched a debate with Steve Woodford, with a guy who's studies evolutionary biology, but he's a Christian, and it was all about the God of the gaps. So, if it's unexplained or we don't understand it, we're unsure. God, reason is God. But what did the dinosaurs have? They didn't have reason or rationality the way we have it. This is a unique tool, unique to us, our species, and we have to learn how to wield it well, not just fill in the gaps with God. So I always want to know something like, well, what is God? And people say, God is information, God is consciousness, God is whatever. And that seems pantheistic to me. Rock is God, ant is God, soil is God, you are God. But no, we have to come back to original sin and people dying for our original sins and all this kind of stuff. I think we're not going to get anywhere if we have this particular kind of ancient patriarchal culture in place. So there has to be a culture shift. So, what kind of culture will that be? And it can't just be a pantheon or a plurality of game B city states and communities dotting the world where we trade somehow and have new currencies and whatnot. There has to be some coherence and consilience and connection and agreements across these differing communities and cultures. And if we can't get to that, we're in trouble. It's a big ask. It's a huge hurdle to overcome, but it has to be overcome. What kind of culture could do that? What would be the cultural values that would entail? What would our beliefs be? What would our faith be? And how would we use the tools of science, engineering, technology, rationalism, logic, and so on to further our project, whatever that might be? There has to be some sense across all of these little communities that will pop up when the population crashes, where we can agree on something, you know? And I think if we interrogate our intuitions on that, we can come up with some pretty good stuff that's been around since the beginning, probably before civilization, when we were hunter-gatherers and migrating across the planet. And usually we migrated because of we overhunt, we overused resources and needed to find more, or there was a shift in the climate, or some natural disaster that made us move. Or maybe some of us were just curious, like the Vikings, but I'm talking about before that, 20,000 years ago. And somehow we succeeded. We always managed to continue to procreate and to move into new places on the planet and dominate them. And it is good to note that from the very beginning, our species, wherever it goes, it uses the resources at hand, and it's very good at it. So there's always been a kind of tragedy of the commons and multipolar trap because our species is so good at using resources that it finds, whether it's tools for hunting and fishing or farming or building or whatever. But of course, we've been on steroids since ancient times, since we started settling and farming so that we could live in bigger communities. But these large networks can be very powerful, as we know, from modernity and from technology and so on. But we really have to tame the beast, because if we don't tame it, like I said before, we're on a bullet train towards a granite mountain, and it's going to be a big disaster. But anyway, okay, collapse, disaster, capitalism, blah, blah, blah. You want to enjoy your life and just think about roses and pets and vacations and so on. I think that's fine. But if you're here listening to me for a minute, you probably want to come up with ideas about what's next and share them and collaborate with other people to see perhaps if these ideas could be exciting, could catch on, could make people think that this is something we should all try to work on. And there are tons of organizations doing similar things that you can find at links we love on my website. But still, the stories aren't coming out that are getting enough traction to take people away from the diversions and the dopamine rushes and the addictions and the supernormal stimuli that characterize the meta crisis, as they like to say. Well, I'm borrowing this terminology because of people I follow, obviously, but we could come up with our own terminology that we might think is more apropos than just liminal, you know, paradigm shifts, whatever we talked about before. I don't know what's going to catch on, but something has to catch on. And like I said about ideology, you know, the communist ideology didn't quite click in the right way, and neither did global socialism, and neither has capitalism, and neither has democracy. Obviously, we don't understand scale, we don't understand power laws, we don't understand exponential growth, we don't understand energy, we don't understand all the Pandora's boxes we've opened, we don't understand all the genies that have been let out of the bottle. The miracle of our minds and our creativity and our ability to do things, it's just amazing. But let's not think that everyone, all of the life forms in this vast universe of ours is like us, or that our particular kind of rationalism and logic is the pentultimate godlike thing in the universe. I don't think it is. I think there's a lot more to be discovered. And because I think there's a lot more to be discovered, and because I want this age of discovery to go on for decades and decades and decades, hundreds of years, generations into the future, so that we might learn and improve. I believe in human potential and development. I'd like to see us, you know, come out of this somehow. So I have my ideas on it that I'm writing into a story form, but I want to get your ideas as well. Your feedback and collaboration. If you would do me that wonderful favor, the gift, I'd appreciate it. I don't know. You know, people go on these chats on YouTube or Rumble or whatever, and they have lots of people watching, and they just talk about what's going on, which is pretty shitty, if you ask me. And you know, people sit and listen, and we all know what's going on. But you know, what are we doing? What can we do? And can we imagine what's next? So that's it. I'm going to stop now. So I ask you to imagine what's next. What comes after this particular global geopolitical and economic system? The philosophy of it, the ideologies involved with it, the belief systems involved with it, crash into the granite wall and get blown up. What comes next? Is it just another cycle of the same old, or have we learned something over the millennia of civilization? And can we apply what we've learned to not make the same mistakes? Okay, thank you for listening. Bulliam T, out.